Hi everyone, I'm Lowanna Grant and welcome to another week of our Media Ring Yarning series. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we are all gathering today and pay my respects to all elders past, present and emerging from my people, the Wiradjuri and Arrernte people. And today I'm proudly standing on Wiradjuri country, my pop's country, and I acknowledge my ancestors, Yamandu, Marang, hello and welcome. So this week, I'm very excited to announce our guest, Ernie Dingo. Hello, Ernie, and welcome.
Hello, Lowanna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine at the moment. It's raining outside, but
I know it's very cold out here in the country, about 4 degrees. I was freezing all morning. It's definitely not the weather in Sydney, but yeah, it's very cold here. I'm actually interviewing you from my nan and pop's place, and we were reminiscing this morning, and they were telling me some yarns about when you were younger and you used to sit around their kitchen table where you first met my dad, and you guys were discussing your careers and where you were going.
yeah, he was a funny bloke, your dad. He was cheeky. I'm standing inside your nan and pop's kitchen, and this bloke comes up to me, all form in it. What's your name? Ernie Dingo. What do you do? Oh, I'm an actor. What are you going to do about it? Go to Sydney and get a job. So that was May 1983. So
a very long time ago.
Yeah, turned the tables on him and says, well, what do you do? And he says, well, I'm a journalist. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to go do a job. So, yeah, that was quite funny in your nan's kitchen there. So I still remember.
Yeah, in Canberra, wasn't it?
Yeah, long
yeah,
time.
I think they lived there for about 20 years and then they've just moved, I don't know, probably when I was about 17 to Narrandera. So my pop wanted to come back on country. So I'm really happy to be doing this interview from their kitchen. It might not be in Canberra, but yeah, it's really nice that we have that connection. And, you were really good friends with my auntie and I think you're related to her cousin Charmaine.
Yeah. Charmaine and I from the same hometown, and she was at ANU doing linguistics, and auntie was there with her. Like they were best mates, and so we just. She said that she was going for a barbecue. It was a Sunday, so I thought, oh, I'm going barbecue too. Yeah, so that's how I end up meeting your dad.
Yeah, and you've both come a long way since then. And just quickly, as an introduction for our viewers that are watching, can you tell us about your journey and just how you got to where you are today?
Well, I'm one of those blokes I come from the bush. I was born on a cattle station called Bulladoo Station, sheep and cattle, about 80 k's out of Mullawa. Mum was Nana was domestic there with my auntie, and Mum was on another station as a domestic, and the movie Made, the American movie Made, with young girls were taken away. Mum was taken away at about 7 to the big house to learn how to be a domestic. And although her father was about 200 metres away in where he stayed, they only got to see each other physically the last Sunday of every month. Yeah, so just from the bush, went to a small town, lots of kids around there, but I had 5 sisters, 1 above me, then 4 below me. So I just sort of learned to zip it and, sort of don't get involved and kept to myself. So I used to build little sand piles and go to the sand pile and then build a little hill. And then I'd duck underneath that hill and touch the horizon. And I remember that as a kid, that all I wanted to do was just see what's over the next horizon. And I've been very, very fortunate from them, 80 k's away to 100 k's away to 400 k's away, and then all over the damn world. So it's been a great journey and great fun to sit back and reflect on it all.
Absolutely. And Ernie, it has been a very difficult time the past week and a half with what's been happening in the world and with the death of African-American man George Floyd, and also what we see here in Australia with the rallies and the fight for justice for families of Aboriginal deaths in custody. And I'm sure your family, like many Indigenous families, have been personally dealing with trauma. It's been a very triggering time. What are your thoughts and how have you personally been processing this?
Well, I think of the families that are my personal family, nephews in police custody have passed. Another young lady that the police shot. She had a knife in her hand, but it's easier to shoot than ask questions or whatever the situation may be. So yeah, that's close bloodline. But even going back through my history, there's a little bit of shooting and stuff going on that we reflect upon. And in this time's situation, it's great to see what the country is doing in regard to what is referred to as Black Lives Matter, to coin that phrase. But it's a turning point, as we can see what's happening all over the world. I mean, our Prime Minister said that we don't have slavery in Australia, and then there was this influx of material of the so-called slave trade in Australia. I mean, a famous Australian, Errol Flynn, was a slave trader, and before he became famous. And this is our history that we have. We talk about massacres and we talk about injustices from all around the country. And, I've traveled all over the country and met a lot of people who tell me stories about what happened in that area. And you don't read about it. We can't get a lot of people out to those places and tell them the story. So having, Black Lives Matter, yes, it does. It makes people aware that, don't look at me because I'm different. These people, so-called boat people, came to our country and they didn't learn our language. You can imagine like a footy team at the end of the footy season, go for a trip to Bali, all the boys go together and they make up their own rules. They can do as they please and, have their own language and have a drink and do drugs or, party on and, do damage, but, as what's going on in this trip, don't tell anyone about it, and then they come home to their families and pretend nothing happened. Well, that's what I sort of look at the First Fleet. They came over here and made their own rules, this, that, and the other, had a bit of fun, and provided you don't tell England what happened, it's all right. And so like they haven't learnt our language. There's 300 major languages in this country that we have. Sadly, there are about 120 that are still spoken daily today. But we have a whole language system that was, so sophisticated that, even blackfellas today don't even understand it. But it was so sophisticated and it protected everyone. Everyone had skin groups, the right way to marry, the rituals, the law, and that was passed down. But once you start taking out the teachers in any way or form and then bringing in another religion over top of what is there. We don't have a religion. Why? Because they didn't ask. So it's a bit difficult. And I'm glad to see that there are a lot of positives that's coming out of Black Lives Matter because it is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just, Australia has a black history, but they don't want to know about it. You don't learn Aboriginal culture or Aboriginal studies at school anymore or at all anymore. And for our Prime Minister to say that there was, Australia has never had any slavery at all. Mind you, South Africans took a model from Queensland in regards to blackbirding and stuff like that and formed this thing called apartheid.
Yeah.
Menzies, after the war, he had a white-only policy. So it's a bit hard when you've go to do your job and you just say, right, zip it, because I'll give you what you want, but you don't really want to know what I can tell you. So I'm glad.
Yeah, totally.
This Black Lives Matter is very important for a lot of people to release. I mean, Rudd said sorry, and no other government wanted to do that because of the ramifications they thought. And here we are all this time later after Rudd. Well, look what happened to him when he done that. He got shafted.
Yeah.
There's all these policies that the Australian government had in paper with the British and how to deal with the locals. And some people still think the same way. I mean, they tell us to forget about the past and, live for the future, but naturally they don't want to remember their past for what.
Yeah, and it is really hard to, it's all around us. I know when I was driving out here to my grandparents' place yesterday, probably about 50 k's out from Narrandera, there's Poison Waterhole Creek. And, as I drive past that, it's just another reminder of, what happened to our people.
And it's the fear tactic as well. I mean, Aboriginal kids today look at police officers and back off. because
Mm.
there is an inbuilt thing about them. We have a lot
Yeah.
of Aboriginal police officers and who don't go into that and try and reinstate the trust that you should have in police
Mm.
officers. But when you've got police officers that have a look at the 420 plus deaths in custody and nobody's been charged.
Yeah.
If they've been charged, yeah, but then what happens? Do they go to court? Are they
Yeah,
convicted?
exactly. Yeah. It is very the numbers, they're not just numbers, they're people and they're our people, and it has been a really triggering time. And in the mid 80s, for you, was it difficult starting out as a black fella in TV and film and theatre, and did you experience racism yourself?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have, and it's documented quite a few times. Catching cabs, renting,
Mm.
buying products, waiting in line, even to the stage where, as the senior reporter for Great Outdoors, known nationally, and going to places to book into a hotel, get there first because the crew is still packing up, and I get to the hotel first, and yeah, they look at you, they know you're there, but they're not dealing with you yet. I mean, yeah, I had many things about racism, and I realized the fact that I don't have a problem. It's not my problem to deal with.
Yeah.
I remind them, sometimes I just remind them, what are you doing here? Sort of stuff. And I said, well, I'm here because God knows where your grandfather been. We could be related.
Mm.
And that sort of gets them on the back foot. But I try not to upset things too much because I have my mother on my shoulder all the time. What she'd gone through, the scars that she carried from growing up, and my uncles, and people when Western Australia talk about Lang Hancock and what he did. He wanted to poison or kill all half castes and this, that, and the other. But I also remember a fun time that my uncle Ernie Dingo had landed in our hometown in a helicopter. That Lang Hancock said that his mineral man, as in my uncle, wanted to go home to see his mother, so he flew my uncle home to see his mother in one of his choppers. So that was very sort of like, yeah, there's some good things, that they do, but we sort of focus on the negatives all the time. And when we do focus on those negatives, that's what gets our blood boiling, and we can't do that. We need to be strong to sort of say, yep, that's happened, we acknowledge it, but how do we educate people to get to the level that we are? We have scars, and scars that are hard to hide, and you say something, you're just going to open up that scar, know nothing about that scar. So you can't educate people. My mother said when I was a kid, because I asked her, why does the government pay for my school? Why does the government pay for my books, my boarding? And they give me $3 a week away from home allowance. And I was pretty upset about it. And I said, well, the farmer kids that I go to school with, they're giving me hell. They're saying that their father has to pay for this, their father has to pay for their books, their school, their la, 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 la. And I said to Mum, well, why does the government pay for our sort of stuff? And she says, well, we don't have enough money to educate white fellas. So, yeah, I always reflect back to the things that my mother had said to me. And the men around them, they're all station workers, her brothers. Her father, my grandfather, was a strong tribal man. He was boss, and set up a strong union in the Murchison and the Pilbara in the desert with his law or language that they grew up with, and weren't allowed to pass too much down. But we're stubborn. We still learned.
So compare the film and TV industry now to back then, in relation to Indigenous representation across production and crews and casting. What do you think has changed?
Well, I remember blokes like Bob Mazza, Foley, bloody Madcap Foley, Foley, Zach Martin, Max Cullen, Brian Brown, Julie McGregor, those three whitefellas were the most persecuted whitefellas in Aboriginal theatre. But on the other side, you got people like Justine Saunders, who's been everything that was done to the Aboriginal community, Aboriginal people, Justine portrayed that. She'd been raped, she'd been murdered, she'd been the whole lot.
Mm.
How the scripts were in those days. We had, the brilliant Tommy Lewis with Chandler Jimmy Blacksmith, and for like that sort of thing happened. Well, yeah, it's sort of, you have the brilliance and of Gulpilil, the presence that Gulpilil brings, sort of like that is a real Aborigine. Tommy Lewis is a half caste, and then you look at it grades down as the lighter the skin gets. I mean, coffee's still the same. No matter how much milk you put in it, it's still coffee. We have these great performers of the past, that we had around us all the time, great writers as well. But it wasn't until Black Theatre, Redfern was a great way of starting it off and getting things going, to tell stories with Woodurununakul and Kim Walker as a dancer and Harold Blair as a singer, if you can go back that, the Mill Sisters. We had all this talent around us all the time, but we didn't only had Black audiences to perform it to. Skipping a few years with all the brilliant actors and actresses that we've had, and writers and directors now and filmmakers. I mean, we've gone a long way. There's the production that we did not so long ago called Brand New Day. That was written 30 years ago, 35 years ago. The story from today of the production from then performed today is still the same. Nothing's changed. And so in a lot of ways, we have this resource that is so powerful. The cake man, for instance, serving up that sort of cake to people was sort of like, no, that's not really going to work on stage. But it does. It reflects the honesties. Jack Davis's trilogies of Colour, Dreamers, and No Sugar, from my experience, there's all this powerful messages out there. But it's sort of like, oh yeah, it's nice for those little black fellas to put on a little piece. But to us, that's our history, that's our law, that's our culture, radiance and production like that. You have a look at Thornton now with his new productions, the filmmaking that he does. You have a look at what's happening with NITV, with the productions that they're putting on, that they're giving people a voice to air this stuff. And it's nice also to get a comment on Facebook or on social media. I watched that story about so-and-so on the thing, didn't know much about it in the history. And I go, oh yeah, because they're watching NITV and they're letting you know that they're watching it. And it's sort of like, they don't know. Sometimes they watch my show, which is fine. I don't mind if they sometimes watch it, but they starting to leave the telly on the channel.
Yeah.
A little bit longer, or flick through it, go through all the commercial networks, and there's too much commercials, and now NITV's getting a few commercials, so they might turn off us as well. What we're doing today is strong. There's so many beautiful stuff that is happening around there, around the country, with theatre, dance, songs. So the art forms is so powerful and positive that probably why ScoMo had taken money away from the arts, because we were ready to lash at him.
Absolutely. And what advice would you give to young blackfella actors or hosts that want to get noticed or want that big break in the industry?
The most important thing, the presence is the main thing. Get your face on there. Get yourself on there. Don't do it standing on a soapbox, because they don't want to know that. They know where the off button is. Catchphrase. Oliver, for instance, got some crazy into the Faborigine. His expression, what's that? What's this then, slut? That is sort of like, because you can't say that.
Yeah,
of course you can, because it's that sort of cultural stuff. If it's more of that Australiana, it's more of that Aboriginality, then good. I mean, we tend to do, yo, bro, what's happening? This, so like, no, we're not Black Americans. We identify.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Just because we're Black Australian, we're Native Australians, and relate and realise that we have a close affinity with Native Americans, and that the persecutions of what's happening in North America is same as what's happening to us, but nobody wants to know about it just yet. I mean, the amount of stuff that happens in our street, I've witnessed stuff while I'm in America and Canada, the same things happens to them, not to the tragedies that is on a constant basis, but the discriminations just because they're Indian. I'm Indigenous, they're Indigenous, and we have the same path and we've got the same treatment. So what I would say to young people who are getting in the business is believe in yourself. Believe in what you can do as a message, but the storytelling. Aaron Pedersen is a classic example. I mean, I love that kid. I remember he came onto the set of, we're doing a production co-starring with Kate Blanchett, and this journalist turned up. What are you doing? I'm with the ABC journalist. And I said, well, you can read, so maybe you can play a role in Heartlands with us. Oh, no, I just want to do I'm a journalist. Clary Carmichael was a role that was played. I mean, Justine Saunders' son. Offered it to Aaron. Okay, I'll have a go. And look at Aaron now. Hello, Detective Swan. It's that thing that keeps going. It keeps going that you do, and that what makes you strong as to who you are. Man, I'm a larrikin. I come from the bush, and I'll take the piss out of people from the smoke. And I know a lot of country people have that same mentality as me. No, I'm bush orientated. I'm a cappuccino. No, I'm just all over flat white to be part of that social scene. But as soon as I get in my red truck and in my blue truck and I go hit that red dirt, big blue sky, I have that escape and I have all these friends around the country. So to young people who are trying this industry, don't be like David Goldpaul. Don't be like that. You can never be like David Goldpaul. David Goldpaul is David Goldpaul. We have this young Kane, for instance, at the moment as an actor that's coming up. He's being true to himself, and that's be a lot more advantageous in the long run. If you look towards the future of what you want to do, then that's more important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really great advice, and I'm sure, even for myself, I can take a lot away from that. And what is the one thing that young black fellas wanting to get into the industry should not do? And what are some mistakes that you've seen people make?
Focus what the director wants in the lens.
Mm-hmm.
That is what everyone will see. Don't focus on what the crew behind you are taking or whatever. Don't focus on that, because that's not what's going to be seen. That's going to be talked about. Right? What is seen in the lens is what the director see is the beautification of capturing those moments. And if your work is there to be captured on screen and not having a couple of takes with the crew afterwards, or messing up that way, keep that life on screen as strong, because that's where people are going to look at and they're going to come back because of your work ethics. So to young people, focus on what will be seen. Focus on what will be heard. Don't allow yourself to get into, the whispers. He said, she said. What's on screen, let them see that. Thank everybody. Thank the director, the whole crew that was involved in that scene. It's the same as thanking your teachers for every class you do. We don't do that. And we don't thank, I'm a big shot. I can appear in front of the camera. That was me. And then, you do something stupid. People remember you for your stupid stuff and not for the stuff that you've done on screen. In regards to beautifying Aboriginality, we look at a lot of people on screen that's of Aboriginal descent, and there's codes to say they're Aboriginal, and we have to look hard, and we shouldn't have to do that. Sort of like enjoy whoever they are, enjoy what you see that's given to you and accept it and appreciate it, because there's a lot you can give in return. As you know, when you're making a film or doing a stage production, people come and watch a 1 hour, 2 hour performance, or they watch a movie that's 90 minutes to 2 hours long. They don't realize it's taken about 6 years to get it that far.
Mm.
So all that stuff in between, acknowledge the people around you that feed you to make you look good. You mean the makeup artist, the driver, the third AD, the wardrobe or whatever. They are the people around you that are just the little people.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, we were those little people once. We used to look at the screens and say, I wouldn't mind doing that. That's what I would say to young people is be true to who you are and wear yourself. Don't be like somebody else. It's your
Just
name.
be authentic.
Yeah, it's your name that you want to see in lights.
Yeah.
You don't want people to say to you, who's better, Ernie Dingo or David Gulpel or Aaron Pedersen? You got 3 different blokes that are going to draw attention, because all the Remington mob are going to say, well, Gulpel, all the Arana mob are going to say, well, Aaron, but all the Wajiri mob here, they're saying, well, I'm better than them too. And I go, no, there's no comparison. It's not a competition, it's a presentation. And if they see more blackfellas on screen, then that's what the winning goal is.
We need to get more people out there and, reflecting all different, mobs and, hopefully that's what, Mediaing can help facilitate as well. But tell us about what you've been doing recently. I know that you were in production for the next series of Going Places with Ernie Dingo, and what else have you been working on?
I do camping on country through my company, Bush TV. Go out bush to a lot of the old people, take the old men out and bring a lot of young blokes and learn how to look after the old fellas, and they teach them song and dance, and we catch food and cook what's around us. And we have yarns trying to strengthen the mind of the mental health of our Indigenous men, so that they too can be re-engaged back into their community rather than incarceration. I've been doing a lot of procrastinating over this last couple of months with the COVID-19, but it's been good because our Adam at NITV has been offering me back. He's given me an extended holiday for...
That's always good.
I ring him up, any jobs going? He goes, have a break, you need a break.
Yeah.
His way of saying no one's going anywhere with this COVID-19. It's a chance also to look at the things that I really want to do. My boys, for instance, my twin boys, they've been keeping me low level to the ground, not only because of their height, but because we just do things that are basics and around us. And so family connections have been strong, and family connection, being a blackfellow, has also been financially weakened because cousin haven't got a job, and you go, okay, give you, the black bank gets a little bit depleted. You can whinge like blackfellas do, but what's the point of whinging? Because they're family. You may get it back, you may not, but it'll give you something to whinge about.
Yeah. And is traveling... Oh, sorry, you go.
I'd say the last couple of months have been great. I mean, before, we'd done some great stories prior to the pandemic, and that's what we're showing at the moment. So, it's a bit hard when people see the new episode. Look at these blokes. No. We shot those before the pandemic.
Yeah, before it, the isolation period.
Yeah, well, our producers, Rimmer, our producer's been on Going Places, have been working because he can do it from home or with the editors, and slowly piecing it together and getting it ready. All I got to do is go into my local studio and do the voice for it, and keeps me busy as well. But other than that, I'm glad the rain's here, and I'm glad the footy's back on, and life's pretty good. All we have to do is my footy team to win.
And is travelling one of your favourite things to do? I know you've been to some amazing places over the years with, all the shows that you've been working on. Is travelling something that you love to do?
I'm still chasing horizons like I did when I was a kid over the next. And I love traveling that much that what I love doing is dropping a swag back in the Murchison or the Pilbara, with or without family or friends, just that big open blue, no artificial lights around him except the campfire or the lights that you got around your campsite. Turn that off, low fire, and just read the stars. I mean, your fire is your best bush television, but other than that, the sky really lights up. No moon or full moon, it wouldn't matter. It's what we in the Midwest, what we call when not a sound is out of place, and that's what I love about my traveling. That I've seen the Northern Lights, I've seen New York, I've seen the Victoria Falls, I've seen the Serengeti, Paris, the whole lot of the world, and it's a beautiful place. But on top of that, when I go home to the Murchison, I hear the sound of my language in the wind. And so that's what makes me feel more comfort, that there is a protection zone around me. You go to Ireland, for instance, especially down the south of Ireland, and you hear the accent. You can actually see the country in their expression of how they talk. And when you hear our languages spoken at home, you have that rhythm that everything is connected. We don't have individual words that we speak to pronounce for that sort of stuff. We roll them all in together because that's what has taken that message from your mouth. And for the melody to the ears is a lot like the country. I love going back to hear that, and I love seeing that. The first sunrise in the bush, watching the full day, just doing nothing, listening to the sounds of birds which come from which directions and how they change from the morning to what we call moar, to and the same light at the end of the day, which we call morle. And the sounds of the day, the visions of the day, where the sun is, what time of the year. Each day is different, but we call them the same. But we feel them differently. And there are different messages and strength in everything that we have around us. So when it comes to traveling, I love just being out there.
And how has COVID-19 isolation been for you, and what effect do you think it's had on productions?
A blessing in disguise in a lot of ways. We have it's funny when you hear a lot of performers, oh, geez, I wish I had a break. God, looking for a break. They go flat out all the time, I just wish I had a break. And then you give them a break and they go, oh, bugger this, wish I was back at work. It's been great because it was given our artists a chance to look at what we've done, revisit those old scripts that we want to do, revisit that old painting, those old stories and those dance moves, and revisit all the things that we've got to do in isolation. There's a ritual that we have every day that we don't know that we do, just do it automatically. So this is given a chance also to elaborate on those moments. People video them, they're quite funny. This is what I do in isolation. A lot of people are dressing up just to take the bin out. And I mean, this is creative people that we don't have a chance to do before. Do them through the COVID-19 period. And it's also giving you a chance to sort of contact people, phone them, message them in some form or another, because you can't go and see them.
I think it's been a good time for people to reflect, and also I've seen a lot of, like, as you mentioned, people just getting creative. I don't know if it's just, out of boredom and you're at home, but a lot of, actors and writers, it's given people a chance to tap into creativity and look at things differently and reflect and connect with family and friends, because, talking is kind of the only way that we can connect at this time without seeing people.
You have a pandemic where the earth is basically telling us to slow down. I mean,
totally, absolutely.
Left alone for a period of time, and look what 3 months can do to it, because we're going to go back out there and start being pollutive again. And not notice a lot of that sort of stuff. But it's been a blessing in a lot of ways to protect ourselves and protect those that are important to us. Sadly, that there's been so many deaths along the way. We feel sad for family and friends of that, of those that have passed, and the sadness that you cannot be with them at funerals and stuff like that. On a brighter note, there is that acknowledgement of having these wonderful memories of these people, rather than the sadness that you couldn't be there to say goodbye. A lot of those are too sad, but if we focus on the positivities of what has happened, what they've given us, and the procrastination that we had of thinking about their positives and our positives, and moving forward with their legacies. I mean, Black Lives Matter is one that's sadness is bringing it, and it happened, but it's being positive that people are getting together and
having those conversations as well.
I
So
mean,
in closing, Ernie, what does the future hold for you?
well, I want to retire one of these days. My blue truck sitting out the front is always got fuel in it. It's ready to go. Next thing all I got to do is chuck swag and a couple of change of clothing or whatever it is, but hit the road. I don't really have anything, profound to say about the future. All I know that once this weight is lifted, a lot of people will realize the fact that there is beauty in what you see, there is beauty in what you feel, and there is beauty in what you hear. Therefore, there is beauty in what you will say.
Well, that's a great way to close. And Ernie, thank you so much for your time. It's been so great to chat to you, and all the best for what's to come.
Thank you, Lowanna, and all the best to you too. Have fun, enjoy it.
I will, and I'm definitely enjoying being back here on country with my family. And as you were saying, just being, listening to language, listening to my pop talk, it's just been a very grounding time for me being back here. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and please tune in to our next episode of Media Ring Yarning.